Okay. Okay, I see still people are coming, so I will always have to check the chat if people are here. So yeah, let's start though. Time is up. So thank you very much for joining today. And yeah, today we have a chance to talk a little bit about circular economy, and mostly we have the chance to talk to our guest today. Now we'll start your camera, Jan, and let's say welcome, Jan, from Freyzein. Thanks for joining and for taking your time to be with us today.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jan. Thanks, Philip, for inviting me to this great opportunity to talk about my company and the paradigm shift from linear to circular, which is very important for our world, I think. Thanks a lot. It's great to be here, and Hannah, and thanks for joining us in this great session. It's amazing.
Thank you for coming and having the time, and also thank you, Gabriel, for helping out with all the technique in the background. Yeah, so like you mentioned, we will talk about a little bit today the paradigm shift, like the way we think and the way we want to process and do products from linear, which we also call cradle, or from the cradle to the grave, which means from taking restriction of resources, processing them, consuming them, and then finally disposing them. That's the linear model we all know. Then, yeah, we will mention how this is different than with recycling. We talk a little bit about some background on linear recycling and circular economy, but mostly we will have the chance to talk with Jan, and you also will have the chance to ask us questions. So in the beginning, I would like to really get to know Jan's story a little bit and share that with you, because I think he has a very interesting and inspiring story. So that's what we're going to start with. We're going to see a bit who is who and who is our guest today. Then, as I said, we're going to show a little bit the concepts of circular economy, what's the background, but just a little bit. And we make it more vivid then afterwards with the example of Fryzein, the company Jan quite recently more or less founded. And we're going to see what they do and what circular economy in practice really means. And I hope you get inspired from what is possible. And I'm really excited to see what Jan has to say about the slides. And then at the end, we have another chance to get together and have questions. You can communicate with us mainly via the chat. And in case you feel that you have to speak out and it's too long what you want to ask or comment in the chat, feel free to ask for the microphone and then I can unmute you. But by default, everybody's muted, so there's no interferences. And if you want to speak, feel free, just let me know. You can communicate with all of us in the chat. So yeah, let's start with Jan and his story. And he gave me a little bit of information about what is his background. So he said, well, he already started another company, and I was really impressed by that, Makava, and he was just 26 years old. So one of my questions I will have to ask you, Jan, soon is how can it be that with 26 years you already wanted to found a company? For me, that's very interesting. And then we're going to talk about Fryzein later on as well. And we see Fryzein is a circular economy startup. And yeah, maybe you can talk a little bit about your background now, Jan, and let us know where you're coming from and how did you come up with the idea first for Makava, and what did you and what led you to found Fryzein. I think that's for me first very interesting to hear.
Yeah, thanks, Philip, for the introduction. Yes, I founded my first company when I was 26. I was at the University of Applied Science, and my neighbor, it was my business partner, it was Michael, and we met each other. And Michael, he had the idea to create a drink, and it was 2001. And 2001, I have been to Argentina, and I got to know the yerba mate tea. And I loved this tea and came back with a lot of tea to Austria. And we both got addicted a little bit to this kind of tea because it makes you awake. I don't was a coffee drinker. I liked mate tea very well. I don't know if you know it. It's like a gourd, and you have a metal straw, and you drink it with this, and it's really strong and has a great effect. And then we started to like brew in the kitchen our own drink, and that was really that was funny, and it was
grassroots.
yeah, it was like a student project, and we made a million different versions and gave it to friends and families, and they tried it. And then we started to like brew the drink in with a production partner. And so it came, and it took, I think, more than 10 years to really establish the company. But since 2016 we are also selling it to retailers, or to retailers. It's the biggest chains in Austria, and it's working really fine. But it was also a long journey, because yeah, you need to sell a lot of bottles that you earn something. That's somehow really a challenge. And there are a lot of companies who try to get into this market, and it's not the easiest market to start with. And yeah, that's the story with Macaba Delighted Iced Tea. I like it very much, and it's amazing, and we have an amazing team. And we also like established a 30-hour work week. Normally you have like a 40-hour work week in Austria, and we said for our employees that we make a 30-hour work week, and we pay the same as if you would work for 40 hours. And at the same time, we made another thing. Like in Austria, it's common that you have 5 weeks of holidays when you work. And we said, okay, for our employees, we make 6 weeks. You get 1 week extra. And that's somehow amazing, because we have all people stay at our company, and they have fun working, and it's also about lifestyle and having fun and enjoying life. And then this company started working out, and it got a little bit like I wanted a new challenge. And then in the end of 2018, I had the idea already much earlier, but in the end of 2018, I really started doing stuff. And then I was thinking like, okay, what else could you make? And I was always concerned with basic human needs, because basic human needs is something you don't create waste, or you don't create something nobody needs. You create something everybody needs, and that's quite interesting. And then I was thinking about like clothes. You can't live without clothes somehow. Perhaps like somewhere on an island or something, but not in Austria. And then we started doing this, and I was wondering, because in the outdoor sector, it's somehow amazing, because I didn't understand why nearly every product, if it's outdoor, is made out of plastics or synthetics. And I was wondering, okay, why don't use natural stuff, materials for this? And because I was thinking, people who love to go outdoors and enjoy nature, they also want to save the nature and keep it beautiful and stuff. And why produce so much waste and plastic and stuff? And then we started creating like our own urban outdoor apparel. And yeah, had also had a little bit of a success story. We came into the startup Accelerator Gründungsgarage from the universities in Graz. Afterwards, we started also with the Climate Kick program. It's Europe's biggest initiative for green innovations. That was also really amazing. They helped us a lot, like with coachings and with mentors, and also with fundings and stuff, and also with the networks they provide. And I'm really thankful for that, because yeah, it was a big step for us as a small startup. And then I see, as a last point here on the slide, you're also mentioning the Worth project. Shortly before the whole COVID-19 crisis started, we have been invited to Valencia, and there we started like there we have been invited that we talk to an development partner who helps us to make our own urban outdoor material. We're also working on our own material, and now we made it in this WEF project because it was somehow a challenge. Also, there were, I think, 90 teams, and they took only 30 teams to make this happen, and we made it.
Yay! Congratulations, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, EU projects, they can be really challenging. I know that from my own experience, but they can be really, like, in the end, it's a game changer. If you're in and you get, like you said, you mentioned networks, the partnershiping, the advisory, things like that. So yeah, that's why I put it also on the slides. Also, I like the ideas they want to develop, and that's also background for today a little bit. We will mention that up once in a while. We talk about the Green New Deal. Maybe before coronavirus we heard about it, maybe now it has been forgotten a little bit, but obviously it will come back, since the agenda here in Europe is going to be green, and they talk about circular economy, and that's also one of the reasons why we are doing this webinar today, to make it like more tangible. What is circular economy, and what are they talking about actually when we talk about circular economy? And that brings me then actually to the next slide. Again, I would like you, Jan, to explain, since those are your slides, and
Yes.
you can easily explain.
Yeah.
So yeah, what is a linear economy? What is a circular economy?
Yeah, if the linear economy, and I really got into this because I think it's really amazing to think about linear economy and circular economy. And the problem we defined is that we take materials, we make products, and after a short use time, we throw them away. And if you think about textiles, and that's really, yeah, the numbers are really, really big. Out of 100 billion clothes produced every year, only 1% gets recycled, and 99% of all clothes gets to landfill or waste incinerators. And yeah, it's amazing numbers. And at the same time, and most of the textiles we use are made with synthetics, and synthetics lead to microfibers, which gets washed to the sea and the waterways. And it's about 500 tons of microfibers every year, which go into the sea. And at the same time, I was seeing a number from the United Nations. They said that I think 35% of all microfibers in the ocean is due to synthetic textiles. And you have to think about it, 35% of all microfibers in the sea. And that's, yeah, you have to change something. It's not a solution. And therefore, at the same time, for our branch, if you think about outdoor clothing is often made out of synthetics. And therefore, we need a solution for that. And yeah, if you want, you can continue to the next slide.
Okay.
Yeah, here you see again, like the linear economy, and a lot of auto companies are within the recycling economy. And what we want to do, we want to continue to the circular economy. We want to support recycling, reuse, repair, and this stuff. And what makes Freyzein, our company, so special is that we combine outstanding design with the functionality you know from outdoor wear, with 100% circular materials. And for our materials, we use also like secondary raw materials. And the whole thing is inspired by the cradle to cradle philosophy. And cradle to cradle is also a really, really interesting movement, I think. And yeah, I don't know if you know these both circles. There is the technical circle and the biological circle in this cradle to cradle philosophy. And like the biological circle would mean if you throw away a product after you have used it, it will biodegrade. And the technical circle would mean that, for example, like you have a washing machine and it's not working anymore, and you give it back to the one who sold it, and he used the parts to build a new washing machine somehow. And in this case, you would like, there would not be waste anymore. And then it's really 100% circular. And yeah, I think that's much, much better than the linear economy.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Yeah, then now we have also chance via the chat. You can ask us some questions regarding those topics when it comes to the linear economy and circular economy. And after this, like I showed, we will go into depth more about what makes Freyzein and what do they do, how do you produce the materials. We have some pictures, and Jan will give some explanations on the materials and the processing. But now, if you have questions regarding the circular economy and also his background, feel free. I have definitely one question. Maybe we can start with that, because we just mentioned also the political background might be changing now. You also see the Worth project is already trying to implement, obviously, the policies of the EU by promoting and helping projects like company startups like Fryzein. So what do you think for an industry or for a country, or from a bigger picture, what are the challenges that the industry is facing from now saying, oh, okay, now we have to go from linear to circular? It's not that easy. So what do you think are the biggest obstacles at the moment?
Yeah, there are, of course, some really big obstacles with this, and there are branches where it's more easy to do that, and branches where it's not so easy, like to implement it. Especially like if I think about the food sector or about the clothing sector and stuff, it's really important to implement it. And at the same time, this whole COVID-19 crisis could also be a chance. Like the people start to think you have a lot of time, you're sitting at home, and you can get into those concepts, and you can start to like think how you implement it in different ways. And something we also want to do with Fryzein is that we like you get to know this concept of the circular economy, and therefore it's not only about selling products, it's also about presenting this philosophy to the people, that they get to know it and they can use it in their daily lives and stuff. And I think that's really important, because if you think about in the normal life, you buy a plastic bottle or you have like a glass bottle, you refill every time. That makes I think the more people it makes a huge difference, and that's really important.
Yeah, every seed counts, so to say.
Everything.
Okay, so if you have more questions, feel free, everybody, to drop a question in the chat. You mentioned Corona, and actually the next question I had was a little bit about Corona too, since we saw at the beginning, for example, when it was in China breaking out, people were talking a lot about supply chains, and that, for example, getting all your resources from all the other side of the planet, and then apart from that, creating lots of waste. People were saying that circular economy can be a solution. What do you think about that? So is it helpful for making us more resilient for a crisis, for example?
I'm not sure if it makes us more resilient for a crisis, but it's, of course, it's, if we want to have a green and social future for our planet, I think circular economy is an important part. It's really important, because the resources are not, and therefore we have to think in circles, and that's really important. And I'm really glad that also Austria, where I'm living, and the European Union, they are thinking a lot of circular economy and are also supporting startups who want to implement things like this. And that's really great.
Yeah, it gives some hope. Yeah, that they're finally supporting something helpful. I really am hopeful too, because I also was into permaculture, and I am still a lot of into permaculture. And I always had a feeling, okay, this whole thinking in cycles and ecosystem doesn't really get to the economists. But now all of a sudden it seems that this is a hip, trendy topic to talk about circular economy, and I'm glad about that. The more people start thinking in circular ways, I think it's great, because it's not just also the maybe the energy use that we have or the resources we created or we then dispose. Many people maybe have not aware of the fact that many materials, also especially based on plastic, are highly toxic. I mean, there's so many chemicals that have so many bad effects on our health. They are like disrupting our endocrine system, and apart from causing cancer, which is pretty bad enough, these are all these things we have to consider. Yeah, it's a biodegradable material which is doing actually something good for the environment is obviously the way we have to go, and it will have positive effects on many things, because yeah, that we have to think of toxicity of certain substances. That's also, I think, a point when we talk about circular economy. What are the benefits? Clearly, this is one. Okay, I have a chat question here. Let me see. I have to read it first. Okay, interesting question. I guess this would be open for debate since no one at the moment might know these answers. So I will just read it out, and it's open debate basically. So the question is, will coronavirus or COVID-19 affect reusable market and the take-back loops due to the fear of disease spread, and does it really spread through these loops? So I guess the question is a little bit, if we go circular, and so people are afraid of being like in contact with the virus, or can it go through the supply chain? If that maybe is what is mentioned, what do you think about that?
It's an interesting thought. I never thought like this.
Yeah, me neither.
I think, okay, when I think, for example, we are producing jackets and we have this reuse market. We refurbish the jackets afterwards when we get it back, and then we sell it again. And I think the the questions you want to know if the product is perhaps infected with COVID-19, and then you are in danger if you buy the product. Yeah, I'm not into medicine like this.
Yeah, I mean, the statistics say that the virus on certain materials stays for a certain amount of hours. They say no, it's on metal it stays 72 hours. On plastic also it's a long time.
Yeah,
but I mean, on the big scale, this will not be, I guess, of a risk. But in general, since there's not enough research yet done on this situation, everything we might say might be just yeah, suspicion.
And I'm sure we will also solve this issue with COVID-19, and hopefully we get back not to normal, but to a more social and ecological future.
A better normal.
And also circular.
Yeah, a green and better social normal. Yeah. Okay, so okay, another question, how does circular economy differ to sustainability? I mean,
yeah,
that's another good question.
I think it's somehow the bigger thing is the sustainability, and to think circular is something which is included in sustainability somehow. But the thought model about to think circular, it's quite new. Or it's not new. It's actually more than, yeah, it's some years old. But for me, it was new, and I was thinking it's really amazing, because you start to reuse resources and you don't throw it away, and you create worth out of waste. And that's something I think you can use it for a lot of products and companies, because normally it would have been waste, and then you create value out of it, and that's really amazing. And if you think about sustainability, if you read a book, it's about the social dimension, it's about the ecological dimension, and it's about the economic dimension. And those three are, it's about sustainability, and circular economy is yeah, it's somehow social, economic, and also ecological in a way. What do you think, Philip?
Yeah, perfect answer. I would say it. I would have also mentioned the three that I mentioned, or like you also know it, the common good balance sheet. You have been also been actually doing it with Makava company. You told me, and when you think of the balance sheet, circular economy is just one topic out of 20. What they define as things to have in mind with being sustainable, and that's what I love about the common good economy. That once you look into this different balance sheet to know, are you sustainable, are you not sustainable, how can I be more sustainable, then they show you, okay, ecological sustainability is just one aspect, and then when you think of circular economy, out of 20 topics, it's only one topic, although it's powerful. When we think of the problems we're facing in the world, then applying circular economy principles will solve many problems at the same time, like energy use, waste, micro waste, like you mentioned, the fibers, microplastics. So I mentioned toxicity. So it is an important counterpiece of the whole puzzle, but not the only one. That's also, I would just have something to say. There's another nice question actually I have here in the chat. Like, do you think, like the question is, what about the balance between durability of the products made under circular economy principles and sales? So do you think that uh, basically it's less durable, maybe, a circular product, and then would it affect sales?
That's somehow, I think, that's the first point about circular economy. If I think about my products, we're producing circular jackets, and
Mhm.
the first thing they have to be is long lasting and durable. It means the best thing would be like you wear them your whole life and you never ever need a new jacket. And that's the first point. But somehow, if you, I don't know, if it gets damaged or if you don't like it anymore, then you have the possibility like to make out of the jacket new fabrics, or for example, if you throw it away somehow, you don't like it anymore, then you know after 4 or 5 years it's gone because it biodegrades. And I think this idea behind the concept, that's really nice, because you create only waste for 4 or 5 years, then it's totally gone. And if I think about a synthetic jacket, for example, it will outlive some trees, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, they say that plastic never really decomposes, and minimum it's 500 years. So I mean, that's
Yeah.
something. Yeah. So yeah, we have one more question. What is the challenge, or the challenges? What are the challenges of the circular economy? Another general question.
Yeah, I would also like to explain it with my company. And one challenge we are working with is the material we are using, um, and the material development we are working on. We want to use secondary raw materials. It means that old t-shirts or jeans, which are out of natural fibers, will get to new fibers. And if I think about my fabric for my urban outer jacket, which has to be breathable, water repellent, and also durable, there there are some challenges, like to how to produce this fabric that it has high quality, because like I mentioned before, durability and long lasting is really important. And yeah, I think in every industry there are some other challenge, but this is one challenge, yeah, for Freyzein.
Okay, another very interesting question. But I think this is the last question for now. We will have another chance to have questions, because these questions we will definitely see now in a presentation from Jan, where we see many things first, and then we can talk about that. For example, now we talk about durability, and that's in the other slides, because like your clothing is tested under harsh conditions, for example. We see that later in a nice picture. So, but this question, I think it still goes in line with the further question, so this is a good question.
Perfect.
Okay, durability and biodegradability seem to be contradictory.
Yeah,
how do you reconcile these opposing forces? So
yeah,
how do you work with this?
yeah, that's something funny, because I was writing for the European Union for this climate kick program, weaknesses in the SWOT analysis, and I was pointing out exactly this problem. On the one hand, it has to be long lasting, and on the other hand, it has to be biodegradable. And that's one of the big challenges in this project. And it's somehow, I was thinking about, like, everybody has a book at home, and if you have your book on your table, it will never ever biodegrade. But what happens to a book if you dig it into the ground, into the earth? It will start to biodegrade. And the same is with our jackets. It needs certain conditions that the biodegradation starts. Otherwise, it never will happen. And somehow, okay, if you keep your jacket wet for, I don't know, some months, because you were swimming with your jacket and you never put it out of your backpack, it will start to biodegrade. But nobody would do that, I think.
Good. If you do that with a non-biodegradable jacket, I wouldn't want to wear that either. It would be full of.
That's the other point.
Pretty gross too. Yeah. Yeah. We have more questions, but if it's okay, I would. We still have them. Then we take them for the next round, because now also I have to look at the time. I would like to show you some more slides, and then we go back to those last two questions. And feel free to keep pointing in the text. So the last question was from Dr. Jehan Barben. So we will go back to that question, and then Gavin, and then we can have more questions. But to not lose the time, we should take a little cut and then continue, because now we talked about also philosophy, and I think it's worth watching this little video which Freyzein made. It's about their philosophy. It's a short clip, so let's hope this works out. I just have to see that it works, and I hope you can just let me know. You should now see the video, and it's not running yet, but you should see it. No? Are you seeing it, Jan?
I see it.
Okay, perfect. So let's see. I really like that video. It's really nice. It gives a good feeling and shows your philosophy. And I never heard about this Japanese concept, and then taking that into consideration with your clothing. I just think it's a great philosophy. And now it's time to introduce more your company. So just let me know again whenever you want me to change the slide. And now again, I'm looking forward to hear you talk about Fryzein.
I can tell a little bit more about, in the beginning, about the kintsugi repair method. It's a nice story, because I was also like inspired by, I was seeing this kintsugi, and then I was thinking about our jackets. And one piece which often gets broken in a jacket is the zipper in the front. And for example, if your zipper gets broken and you send it back to our company, and you have the possibility like to choose the color. You have, for example, a black jacket and you want it really special. You take a pink zipper, and then you have a unique piece nobody else has. And then the emotional value for the customers increases. And I think that's really amazing. I would love to like have a piece of cloth which is really, really unique and nobody else in the world has. And that's inspired by this Japanese repair model. Thanks.
Yeah, that's really, I was really inspired by the video is really nice, and I never heard about that Japanese philosophy before either, and it's nice thinking about the broken coffee cup with gold. You will never throw that away.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah. So yeah, some more background
Yeah,
on Freyzein.
yeah. We create sustainable circular urban outdoor apparel, and we want to make fashion a driving force for good and inspire ecological change in the world. And Fryzein, be urban, be outdoor, be responsible. As I told you, we have been already member in some Accelerator programs. We are also funded by the Federal Ministry of Digital and Economic Affairs from Austria. Philip, could you please get to the next slide? And that's one of our jackets. And it's designed in Austria and lovingly crafted in Europe with passion and care. And we use healthy materials. It means not only that the materials are biodegradable, it means also that we don't use toxic chemicals and no microplastics. And something which was really a big challenge for us as a company is, okay, it's somehow you could imagine it's easy with the fabric. You can use natural fabrics, but then you come to the zippers or to the buttons. And even the zippers and the buttons are biodegradable. And that's something amazing. It was really a challenge to find companies who produce stuff like this. And we are the first company who use this in this way. And that's good. Yeah, I think you can continue.
Okay. Yeah, that's one of my favorite pictures actually.
Yeah. That was in Sri Lanka, and I met him. He's a really nice guy. He was a surfer guy, and we said, okay, let's make a really nice photo shooting. And we tested the jacket during Sri Lankan rain, and it's working. It's really water repellent, and you don't get wet underneath. That's really
yeah,
good.
that's why I wanted people to wait for that picture when we talk about durability, because I mean this is when a picture talks more than 1,000 words can say. But we still go back to your questions. But I really love that pictures. I had to put it here. It's really great. Yeah, I saw that on social media too, and I was glad you had it in your talk. I mean, it's a really cool picture. Yeah, more on the materials here.
Yeah, that's the material I mentioned already, and it's we have 2 layers. They are connected with a yarn. We don't use glue, and it's durable, breathable, and eco material on the outside and windproof, and it's skin friendly on the inside. And we call it Fryzein biodegradable, this material, and we are now working on it. I think we will finish this material mid 2021 or end of 2021. It's not we don't know yet, but we are working hard on this. And yeah, it's really amazing. And what this material is able to do, it's not only circular, it's B-circular. And B-circular, it's something we invented for ourselves. B-circular means it's, on the one hand, it's for the biological circle. I explained it before. And on the other hand, it's for the technical circle. It means you can put it in both circles, and it works in both circles. You know, if you can recycle it anymore, then you can throw it away, and you know it will biodegrade. And I think that's an amazing standard for products like that.
That's the ideal, no? Ideal. Okay. Should I continue with the slide? Next slide.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Yeah, here is a little bit about the idea. Like I told you before, we made it from discarded natural textile. It's important that it's natural textiles. Then there are companies already within Europe which can produce biodegradable organic cellulose out of this stuff. And the European Union is funding a lot companies who are building up stuff like this, because they know it's a big problem with all this waste generated out of textiles. And then they produce like then we produce a B-circular double weave, and it will get a durable, super hydrophobic, high density fabric. And that's our material we want to use in future for our products.
And just for people I don't know, can you please translate that word for me? Yeah, super hydrophobic, high density
Hydrophobic,
fabric.
it means, yeah, okay, yeah, that's super hydrophobic. It means that water has no chance to get inside.
Yeah, it sounds good. Cool. Yeah, and all, like, basically how much in a percentage, like, all material is made from, except for the zipper and the obviously the.
That's something we have to point out. You will see in the next slide, I think.
Okay. Okay. Oh yeah.
And due to this material, we can reduce water up to 99% in the production, and reduce virgin fibers more than 50%. That's something we are right now researching, how much we can use secondary raw materials, and or we need some virgin fibers. It's not, I was telling, like, the problem or one of the challenges is to get this material really durable, and let's see how much secondary raw materials we can use. Perhaps it's possible to use 100%, but we have to make some tests for that. But at least, and that we already know, is at least 50% is out of secondary raw materials. Then due to biodegradable, it's up to 100% zero waste. And we will also reduce CO2 greenhouse gas emissions by 75%. And here is also, like, the durability, increased use time due to repair, and refurbish and reuse models. And that's something, the reuse models are also very interesting. That's something else we are working on our business model, and we want also to, like, establish subscription models. Not only that you buy the piece of cloth, but only that you also have subscription models. And then we were thinking, okay, when I buy a jacket, why would you need a new jacket after 2 years and should change it? There is no need for that. And then a friend of mine told me, but you know, Jan, what about children? What if you think about children? If you buy your 4-year-old daughter an outdoor jacket, she will need a new jacket in 1 year because she has outgrown it. And here it's really awesome and special, like, to have these subscription models, because parents can send the jacket back and get a new one. And the old jacket will be refurbished, and it can be sold to another child who can use it. And yeah, that's somehow nice. I like the
Etsugi, no, what was the word again?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's funny, because subscription model for a textile industry is completely innovative. Normally you would see that for educational content or media content, things like that. Very, very smart. Okay, maybe we continue then to the next slide. You have something on business model here too, so.
Yeah, here I wanted to show, like, that we combine craftsmanship with heritage and innovative businesses. And there are, on the right side, you see some values the company stands for. It's like lovingly crafted in Europe, precious goods, fair work, repair and reuse. It's built to last, sustainability in tune with nature, art and technology, because it's a lot about our fabric technology, and design and tradition, because if you produce in Europe, it's a lot of companies, most companies produce in Southeast Asia or something, and in Europe it's good to keep it up with the production also in Europe, that this knowledge don't get lost, how to produce quality fabrics and quality products. And I think that's also it's really nice to, like, keep this up and don't let everything go to Asia. Yeah.
And it's interesting, like, when we talked about earlier about sustainability, some people actually add a fourth pillar, which is culture heritage, for example. And the EU, I know also they focus on that a lot in their calls for finance and things. and it is cultural heritage. I mean, knowing how to sew, how to make things with your hands, all this artisania, all these old craftsman techniques, they shouldn't get lost. And also for me, when we talk about resilience and crisis, something we mentioned before, knowing how to do stuff, yeah, and also promoting again, knowing how to do it with hands and not just machines. Everybody or many people talk about artificial intelligence and things like that, but now we see that we cannot only rely on other things. We also need to encourage, and that's also one very interesting aspect. And there was a question actually pretty closely related to that. I just wanted to ask you, then, where do you produce? Because you mentioned it's in Europe produced or crafted. So where are the production sites?
Right now, we are still in the MVP, in the minimum viable product phase. It means we are prototyping all the time, and now we are producing with an Austrian company. And this Austrian company, we have a partner company in Bosnia, and the other, we also found a partner, which is where we can, but with this partner we can only work together if we produce higher amounts of the jacket. And he is in Portugal, and I love Portugal because I'm a surfer, and I would love to visit this country during summertime and like go to the fabric or to the apparel producer, and then afterwards go surfing, something like that.
Sounds like a good plan. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So let's continue with the slides. I guess it's a good idea. Oh, you have the Sustainable Development Goals. Something people might.
Yeah, I think
too.
Somehow those Sustainable Development Goals are supported through our companies, and fashion is one of the most polluting industries on earth, and this is neither sustainable or acceptable. And at the same time, 3 in 5 items bought are thrown away within a year. And that's also, it's also, and every second a truck full garbage is burnt or landfilled. And through our business model, we want to reduce the use of water due to the use of secondary raw materials. We want to avoid waste up to 100% through our biodegradable materials, and we want to reduce CO2 emissions. Yeah, I think you can, and yeah. That's also like our business model. And here you see that circular business model, they have a significant potential to cut greenhouse gas emissions. And for whom we are doing our products, it's somehow like who wants to wear our products. It's a green urban outdoor adventurer, somebody who wants to show that he has an ecological and social conscious. And we want to produce circular outdoor products. We are starting with Checketts, and we get in contact with the consumers not only through our social media channels, but also through our repair models. It means that we are still in contact, because if someone wants to repair, we keep a contact to the consumer. And at the same time, we want to, like, our products are not limited to sales, but also to repair and lease models. And that's also, yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think
that's the team you're working with.
That's our team.
Yeah. And yeah, let's now go to the questions that were still open. I will recap them. See, some things you actually mentioned, but because you talked about water. So the first question is, look, I just read it out. I'm interested in wastewater recycling and use. How, or have you tried to find out the challenges with the wastewater recycling?
Yeah, wastewater. In this cradle to cradle philosophy I mentioned, there is one part of this cradle to cradle philosophy. They have a high standard when it comes to wastewater. It means that if you work together with a production partner or with a fabric producer, you have to be really careful about the wastewater, because it has to have a high standard. Otherwise, it's not suitable with the cradle to cradle philosophy. But on the other hand, we are a small producer. You can imagine if we go to like an apparel producer with some hundreds employees, and you say, okay, what about your wastewater? Please make it clean. It's always a challenge. But I think, and I'm really convinced about that, is that it's important to do that. And if companies react with that, that's a big challenge, a big chance also that you get also more economic vital. If you do it like this, if it's for the planet, it's for the people, and it's also good for the business. And that's really important.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I hope this answers your question. So next question. Okay, let's. Okay, I will just read out and see. Maybe we have some clarification on this question. Did we work in a circular function up to the start of the 20th century before industrialization? Okay, so the question is if it was like when we before industrialization, if we were circular, maybe by then. Before there was use of pet. Not in the end, like when there was only wood buildings. I think that goes in that direction. No cement. Yeah, but it's hard to say when. I don't know exactly when they were the first.
Yeah, especially if you think about clothes. I think the first guy who was on the Mount Everest, it was Sir Edmund Hillary, I think, and he had a natural outdoor jacket, for example, because there was no synthetic clothes at this time. If I think about clothes, it's somehow okay. Synthetics, that's something which is quite near, quite new.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, before the 1910 or something, when there was hemp clothing, and then they started, they discovered the synthetic fiber, nylon, and since then everything changed, I guess.
And I think it's also the same if you think about organic food. Everything was organic before there came fertilizers and all this stuff.
Yeah. Okay, next question. Do you think it is easier to start thinking circular, making big companies to adapt to it, or is it a matter of making the consumers thinking more circular? Interesting question.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think somehow if small companies like Fryzein are successful with this business model, big companies will start to change. And somehow, I think circular business models, they are already somehow successful in a small way. And big companies are already starting to act. I know it from Hennes and Mauritz. You certainly know this fashion chain. It's really huge from Sweden, I think. And they are also thinking about circular ideas already and stuff. And yeah, the thing about Freyzein, when I think, okay, now big companies will start to make circular products as well. Is this a problem for a small startup like Freyzein? I don't think so, because every product we use, every product we produce will be circular. And other big companies, they have some products which are circular, and our whole business model is about circularity, and therefore we will stand out in front of other big companies with this concept.
Okay, yeah. So there's one more question, and I'm not sure. I think I will read it out. How do you produce biodegradable product which is made from 60% non-biodegradable textile? I don't know if that's true. Old garments you recycle? ? And what about the chemicals once used to color the jackets? Are they environmentally friendly? So that's basically two questions.
Yeah, that's part of the challenge. And the 60% secondary raw materials, they are also biodegradable. It's really important, that you can't use like synthetic textiles and recycle them. They have to be natural textiles, and that's something which is really new in this sector, that they are also able like to recycle those natural textiles and make new textiles out of it, and they are also biodegradable. It's all biodegradable. It's an important part, otherwise it wouldn't work.
Okay. Yeah, we already back into the questions. So I also have some more questions before we will close in like 5 to 10 minutes, but we still have some chance to have some questions. Or let's say maybe more, we can think what can we do about it. That's what I want to find out a bit. So when we think about tips and tricks, yeah, quick, if you're a company, for example, where would you start? How to become more circular? Where would you start? Which would be for you a useful start? And yeah,
get to know the philosophy about cradle to cradle and dive into circular economy and read about that stuff. And I think you will be so inspired that it is like yeah, you get a lot of ideas into your mind if you read about those concepts. And there are also a lot of possibilities for larger companies to implement it. And something which is really interesting with larger companies is there it has also a big impact on the whole system. And I think if we as a company also inspire other companies to think about cradle to cradle and circular economy, and we earn money with this, then I'm 100% happy.
Okay. More question here I have. What external services would further support your business path to circularity? So what can you, like, what help can you get, or other services can you, I guess, contract by to make your company more circular?
Yeah, if it comes to service, I'm thinking a lot of subscription models, leasing models. Leasing model could also, subscription is not the same like leasing. Leasing, if you perhaps think about you travel to a country and you're on holidays and you want to like hike on a high mountain, and you don't have the right equipment, and you go to a shop and you can lease for, I don't know, 3 days a high quality jacket and then give it back. It would also be like a nice service, and you could earn with that money, and also the company who leased the product can earn money with this. And this would also be a service which is really nice concerning circular business models.
Okay, thanks. One more question. I hope that is good for Ease. One question now goes towards packaging. How are you packaging your products? Are you making that packaging circular too?
I was thinking. I was also thinking about this, because on the one hand, okay, everybody knows paper. It's okay. Paper is also biodegradable, and you can recycle it also. And there is a company from Lithuania, I think, in Europe. It's called Repack, and they are producing like bags which are reusable. And you get this package, and you pay a little bit for this packet for this pack, and then you can send it back and you get the money back, and it stays in the circle. And that's something also really nice. We are thinking a lot about making a cooperation with this company from Lithuania, Repack, and I think it's amazing stuff. And it's also important that companies who are supporting circular economy start to like work together and support each other.
And I also have a question for you from the startup point of view, because you made you founded 2 companies and both are running. So how would you think how important it is to get help from the outside, like financing, business development, coaching? Because I see you have been all these partners, and then you have this Gründungsgarage from Graz, this startup hub. How important would you think it is to focus on these kind of things too?
Yeah, I worked a lot on this in the beginning, because it's good already, but it's not perfect. And if you start to like present your business idea in front of mentors who have a lot of business experience and stuff, they start like, they give you ideas, and sometimes it's you hear ideas and think, okay, I don't need it. But sometimes, okay, that's an interesting thought, and then you start to talk to him, and then something new gets created, and that's amazing. That's really it's really important, like to have a big network, and also which is really good for a startup like us is in a startup accelerator, there are other startups, and they perhaps they do totally something different than you, but they got the same problems like you. They also have to find employees. They also have to make a finance plan. They also have to go to the bank, and they also have to like
think about their business model. Do I do subscription or do I do something else? Yeah.
It's somehow it's the same, and then you talk to each other and you help each other, and it's a good question. It's really important. It's really important, I think.
One more question from my side, and then I would close already. What, as an entrepreneur, what mistakes did you make, and would you try people to tell, hey, don't do that mistake? So what are your lessons learned from that side?
During the first company, when we started it up, it was like after 8 or 9 years, and we really worked a lot, and whole night sometimes, and all during the day, and sometimes also the weekends and stuff. And I stopped making like holidays or pause, and I think, and then it was not the same anymore. It was really important, like to have a break, and during a break you start to think different again, and so you come up with other solutions, and then you find out, okay, I was working, I was running, but it was the wrong direction. I have to change the direction a little bit, and then I don't have to run as fast as before, and it works out suddenly. And that's something I have to learn. And it was really hard, because it was getting near to a burnout or something like that. And then it was really the point where I said, like, okay, stop, and then it started to work out.
Good. Yeah, cool. Yeah, thanks so much for those. For your answers. And if there's anything open after today, feel free to contact Jan. And if you have questions for me, feel free. And also, if you don't know how to contact them, you can still contact me. I will forward everything that was maybe unclear. So yeah, obviously. You should follow Freyzein on social media and share the word. It will help always. You can also, as I mentioned already in the event description, you can get a certificate for the course. If you write us an email, we guide you through the steps with a little bit of contribution. With that, you help us planting trees, and you actually will get a certificate for where we plant the trees. So for me, that's also a great seed we can all come up with from today. And basically, all I want to say is thank you guys, and special thanks to Jan, and I'm really looking forward to hearing more from Freyzein in the future, and all the best, and stay healthy. That's the most important thing. Thank you everybody for joining, and thank you, Jan.
Thanks, Philip. It was amazing.
It was really fun. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing you again. As I mentioned, let's do one on the common good, and we talk about my cover. I think we have lots of stuff to share there too.
And thanks for the amazing questions. I like to answer them.
Yeah, thanks to everybody. Those questions were really great. Made it really fun. And yeah, great evening. So everybody stay home, stay safe, and hopefully see you guys soon again. Take care.